Alrighty, shalom, brothers and sisters. How you doing this evening, this morning, this afternoon? I'm going to give you guys a little bit more information on the irrevocable common law trust or common law irrevocable trust. We are in this book, and I am starting with chapter 19, Keys to the Future, but I'm not going to start on that. I'm going to start with money, trade, and exchanges. The purpose of reducing all financial transactions to numbers is for taxation. Without reporting the numbers, how could we be taxed? Give me 3 of your sheep. That is how it used to be. Taking care of sheep is much more difficult than counting numbers. Once the numbers happened, everyone became subject to taxation. Then we have buttons and bears. There are certain key ideas about numbers in a money format that are simple and basic. For example, anything can be used as money. We remember the stories when the Europeans came to America and the American Indians, American indigenous peoples, were eager to trade furs for buttons. So remove from your mind that only paper bills are money. First of all, paper bills are not money. That is currency. Why? Because it currently has value. I'm going to continue this, but I'm going to expound on that. The value is in trade. We trade paper for food, and that is just as ridiculous as trading buttons for bearskin. So it told you right here, the value is in trade. Trade is the value. Exchanging, bartering, not the physical thing, but if there is a physical thing that actually has value, it is not paper, it is precious metals, gemstones, things that came from the earth, that were stored in the earth. We all know where dollar bills came from. They came from trees. Therefore, the trees have more value than the dollar bills with symbols, shapes, and numbers and a deceased person's face on it. Precious metals and gemstones like rubies and diamonds and gold and silver and copper and aluminum and cobalt and iron, all those things have more value because they were stored in the earth. They have stored value. They were precious because they weren't out in the open like a leaf that fell off a tree. You had to dig for it. It was stored in the earth, therefore it has more value. It's rare. Now the debt deal, that's what we're going to go with next. If you take what you believe to be a dollar bill out of your wallet right now and look at it, you will discover it is a Federal Reserve note. This is a promissory note, basically a note promising that what's on there, the number that's on the note is what's in the bank. But it says that is a promissory note and it has no backing. It is debt, not money. That means if this phony dollar was devalued, it could become worthless, as it's becoming now. Conversely, real dollars were silver certificates, and you could take them to a bank to exchange them for silver coins or bars. And there we go. That's the whole point of the paper. A promissory note promising that you have whatever is value on that piece of paper, that's what's in the bank. For what? Silver coins or bars. Because that's the real value. That's what's backing the dollar. That's what used to back the dollar until 1933. But it says the United States became a rich country when the U.S. dollar, backed to buy gold and silver in Fort Knox, was the standard for the world. The international bankers took all the gold and silver in a bizarre, twisted financial maneuver reported in several books. And again, going back to 1933, they took all the gold and silver out of circulation, store them in military compounds. Of course, that makes sense because they have a lot of weapons. You can't come in here and steal it, or you know. But the Federal Reserve note comes from the Federal Reserve Bank. And this bank has no money because it created currency out of thin air. If you understand that if something has no value from the beginning and it's continued to be created, that means the value will continue to drop, though it was never created from value. But anyways, we're going to continue with media's dictation. The media keeps the money moving and thus convinces you it has value by showing you a constant parade of goodies this Federal Reserve note buys. Again, the value is in trade. So if all you're seeing is this is what this paper is going to get me, okay, it has value. But it does not have value. The trade, the use of it has value. Again, the trade. The media control what you see and what you hear. This includes television, film, publishing, online holdings, theme parks, and other miscellaneous ventures. The names of the big six who control what you think you know are on to the next page. And it says, many people are aware of the danger of controlling our thinking. In an article from the Free Press, we find this comment. Most progressives already know the nation's media are in the hands of the few, the rich, the white, and the male. We know that local control of the airways and newspapers is as rare as a fair and balanced Fox News report, and as tenuous as Cheney's stuttering heart. We know that to create any lasting and systemic social change, out with the old and with the bold, we must take back the media that we've lost. Excuse me. Our five corporations all own of the world. Our five corporations own all of the world's media. Routine is getting a little tired. It's about time we beefed up our knowledge about how the internet is threatened, how print magazines are bowing like Tony Blair under postal rate hikes, who's slapping the hands of communities reaching for radio stations, and who's kissing whom on the CEO playground. Irrelevant, maybe, but are we below blackmail? And next is virtual lockdown. With a powerful grip on information access, we live in a virtual lockdown. All of these media giants must ensure the money design remains in place. Otherwise, they lose their power. Your evening news deletes anything too upsetting for you to know or waters down the facts. The news parades murders, wars, victims of crime, fires, many disasters, and election battles, while the advertising between news spots convinces you to spend your money or invest it. Telling you about the complexities of money, though, does not happen. Using the excuse most people cannot understand the details, they keep our programmed expectations solidly in place, thus assuring their own job security. And to be honest, these next couple of paragraphs are my favorite. But check this out. Key to financial security. Where the common law trust becomes a threat is it holds the key to financial security by supporting different values. Now, the different values are not something that this country would put first, or would even consider. But I'm going to continue before I even expound on it. The trust certificates come backed by the trust worth. Remember, the Trust certificates are the TCUs, the trust capital units. Instead of United States dollar, you have trust capital units. The trust would be considered what is backing it. The capital is what is considered important or valuable in the trust. It's also backing it. And the units would be the actual, instead of there is no actual unit, the trust capital is the unit, or compared to the United States currency would be the dollar. So this would be the currency of the trust. If the trust owns a farm and the economy slips, the trust certificates become more significant because of this superior backing. And there we go. The farm is a part of the land. Therefore, you have a portion of true wealth, because you can't print land. You can't make more land. You can't lessen land. Earth is earth. So therefore, that becomes that. The farm supplies food. No one will starve. And again, the important things for humans, we need food, shelter, and clothing. If those three commodities are satisfied, we do not have to depend on companies or corporations, grocery stores, housing. We don't have to depend on anything outside of our common law, God-given rights, the creator of the heavens and the earth. But I'm going to continue. It says, with enough land, shelters can be built. This is a true asset. And again, you cannot print more land. You can't destroy more land. It will always be land. It will heal itself. You can't just knock off a piece of earth and then earth is gone. No. But we're going to continue. The assets in the trust are not limited to the goods. They include the talent for potential creation of wealth. Wealth is not limited to the numbers in the bank. It includes any ability to offer support. And there, right there, is the different value. The trust, that's what the trust is supporting. That's the different value. Wealth is not limited to the numbers in the bank. It includes any ability to offer support. And that's with the farmland. You have land, you have true wealth. When the English colonists came over, during the war for American independence, actually before that war, they bought up a lot of the land in the 13 colonies, mostly in South Carolina, because that was a very bomb desecrated, war-ridden area. So they were buying 3,000, 8,000 acres. And again, the land is the value. That's what every war is about, land. Every war. Do not be confused, because again, the assets of the land could have gold, and the land could have silver, cobalt, nickel, iron, copper, oil, fruits, vegetables, cattle, goats, asses, sheep. All of these things are valuable because the Creator made them. There's nothing higher than what the Creator made. That's why all of the wars were about land and everything on it and underneath it. Don't ever let anyone else make you think anything different. With shelter, food, and clothing handled, a group of people can build a city, invent new transportation, create new kinds of technology. And again, that's another threat to this common law trust. Irrevocable common law trust. They want you to depend on them for food, shelter, and clothing. Because without that, you could potentially die or be in harm's way constantly. So they bank on having those necessities taken away and causing you to be dependent on them. As mentioned before, people of the trust are the asset, not the stuff in the trust. So your administration team, the people that you work with that are working with the trust, to the world, it's a trust. Everyone in administration, the beneficiaries, the grantor, you, trustees, executive secretary, general manager, steward, treasurer, all of these people understand that to the world, it is a trust. But to everyone that I just mentioned, it is an organization because it is a team effort. Because again, it says, with shelter, food, and clothing handled, a group of people can build a city, invent new transportation, create new kinds of technology. This is the coming of the kingdom of heaven, when people work together, have grace and mercy upon each other. You can build a new city because shelter, food, and clothing will be handled. But we're also going to go back in history a little bit too, expound on, the happenstance of currency. It says, gold warehouses. Because of your mental programming, we realize this is a hard notion to grasp, but this is exactly how the current paper money unit started. Notice it says paper money unit, meaning it's a currency. It's not money. In the 1700s, there were warehouses of gold. People stored their gold and received a note to recover the gold when needed. There you go. The note is a promise that I have whatever on this note in the bank. Gold is heavy and awkward to exchange, while this piece of paper backed by the gold was much easier to use. So I don't know if you ever had a lot of coins in your pocket, but you sit down in the wrong place, all those coins disappear. You can only imagine walking around with gold, or having to have a sack full of gold, and it become heavy, and you're tired of dealing with it. So they went to paper with a amount on it. You could take it anywhere, and again, the value is the trade, not the for this scenario, the value is the trade, not the paper. It's just a promise. But it says, instead of trading the gold, people paid for goods using the receipt from the warehouse. There you go, the value trade. Anyone with this paper could go to the warehouse to claim the gold. Therefore, it became the way of business to use the paper to trade instead of the gold. Now we have interest-based loans. Those who owned the warehouse noticed people did not come back for the gold, so lent with interest 10 notes to 1 bar of gold. Now this is what is called splitting. That is also in the irrevocable common law trust. Splitting, you have a limited supply, because again, if you create like this country, if you create much of something that isn't backed by anything, the value was never there, first of all. And secondly, you make more of it, therefore the value will decrease, though the value was never established. So it's kind of backwards, very backwards actually. But 10 notes to 1 bar of gold. In the common law trust, you and the trustees can sit down and determine the value of the TCUs, the trust capital units, based on the assets in the trust. And you can also base that off of what you initially exchange into the trust, the fair market value of whatever it is. Say it's land, and the land is, you got it for $500,000. Therefore, that would be the basis of that one asset. That's called the initial corpus, the body, the initial exchange, and the set value of the trust. would be that. You can also put in the indenture that if the initial corpus or the value of the trust goes below 500K, you can terminate it and disperse the funds, that's just an incentive and your freedom as a living soul under the common law to have something like that in your trust indenture. We're going to continue. It says, still people never came back to collect the gold. So these warehouse bankers issued more notes for gold. And there is the deception and destructive decisions As you can see, this developed into a profound money scheme with this intricate web of interest based on imagination and unlimited supply of Federal Reserve notes printed when convenient. The more they print, the more devalued the currency becomes. And I just confirmed everything that I was talking about. What's next is certificates. The common law trust creates money, or should I say, again, I'm going to replace this word money because you can't create money, but the common law trust creates currency by agreement. And here lies the danger and the threat to those in power. Again, the trust is whatever assets are in the trust. When you create TCUs, trust capital units, the value is backed by the assets in the trust. So they're not just pieces of paper created out of imagination to deceive people. The value is the people and the assets. People are assets because they are living, breathing beings. They are collective in this trust. This is an administration. These are people. These are living souls bringing value to this trust. And also the assets, again, the land, what is in the land and what is under the land and on top of the land. This is all value. This is what's backing the trust, not an imagination, not a way to deceive people and banking on the fact that they will pay the interest and the debt that was created, again, out of nothing. And it says next, if enough people come together to create another powerful exchange complex, anything can happen, which is exactly what the powers who control your mind do not want. It is a short step from a trust certificate returned to the Board of Trustees before signing or trading it to another to creating a money or currency format backed by a different value. The people, the assets, the land, that's the backing of a different value. What hinders you the most from exploring this possibility is you need the current financial reality too. You have your own vested interest in keeping your life the way it is, or do you? Okay. I also like these next couple of paragraphs as well. It just gives you a very good perspective on the truth. The truth will set you free, but also gives you a perspective on the deceitfulness of where currency came from and the banking on the people to back the value. Again, we the people. That's the importance of the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution. We the people. The people determine everything. Not a person, not a man. No. So this one says the Franklin mistake One of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, made an innocent error. Eventually, the truth would have escaped anyway, but Franklin probably brought about the demise of America's financial system sooner. According to a radio broadcast in 1941, we discovered this startling information. The following historical story is taken from a radio address given by Congressman Charles G. Binderup of Nebraska some 50 years ago and was repented in Unrobing the Ghost of Wall Street. Next, we have colonies more prosperous than the home country. Before the American War for Independence in 1776, the colonized part of what is today the United States of America was a possession of England. It was called New England and was made up of 13 colonies, which became the first 13 states of the Great Republic. Around 1750, this New England was very prosperous. Benjamin Franklin was able to write. Check this out. There was abundance in the colonies, and peace was reigning on every border. It was difficult and even impossible to find a happier and more prosperous nation on all the surface of the globe. Comfort was prevailing in every home. The people in general kept the highest moral standards, and education was widely spread. Then it says, when Benjamin Franklin went over to England to represent the interests of the colonies, he saw a completely different situation. The working population of this country was gnawed by hunger and poverty. The streets are covered with beggars and tramps, he wrote. He asked his English friends how England, with all its wealth, could have so much poverty among its working classes. His friends replied that England was a prey to a terrible condition. It had too many workers. The rich said they were already overburdened with taxes and could not pay more to relieve the needs and poverty of this mass of workers. Several rich Englishmen of that time actually believed, along with Malthus, that wars and plagues were necessary to rid the country from manpower surpluses. Wow. Wars and plagues were necessary to rid the country from manpower surpluses. Franklin's friends then asked him how the American colonies managed to collect enough money to support their poor houses and how they could overcome this plague of pauperism. Franklin replied, "We have no poor houses in the colonies, and if we had some, there would be nobody to put them in, since there is, in the colonies, not a single unemployed person, neither beggars nor tramps." Now, I don't know if you noticed, but they just described two different financial systems. Where in England, the rich were basically overburdened with taxes. And they didn't have a way to, unfortunately, pay those taxes. But they thought the best way to handle it was plagues and wars, so that people literally died, so that the rich didn't have to pay taxes, which is insanity. Meanwhile, in America, or at the time, New England, everyone was working. Everyone was paying a tax. There were no beggars or tramps, and there was no poverty, because everyone was working for or working against not having food, clothing, and shelter. So, and I love this next part as well. So it says, thanks to free money issued by the nation. It says, his friends could not believe their ears, and even less understand this fact, since when the English poorhouses and jails became too cluttered, England shipped these poor wretches and down and outs like cattle and discharged on the quays of the colonies those who had survived the poverty, dirtiness, and privations of the journey. And here we go. The mistreatment of another human being, a living, breathing soul, in order to not pay taxes when a small class of people had the majority of the wealth in the country. Rather than pay the taxes, they, so like it says here, when the houses and jails, again, put people in jail, poor houses in jail, they would put them in poor houses in jail instead of pay the taxes. It says, England shipped these poor wretches in down and outs like cattle and discharged on the quays of the colonies those who had survived the poverty, dirtiness, and privations of the journey. So they shipped them to the 13 colonies, New England. But it says, at that time, England threw into jail those who could not pay their debts. And again, they couldn't pay their debts, so they threw them in jail. But then the rich get overburdened by taxes. So then they shipped them to New England. Wow. They therefore asked Franklin how he could explain the remarkable prosperity of the New England colonies. And this part right here, this base will give you, in retrospect, an understanding of how this country was able to survive as long as it did. It says, Franklin replied, that is simple. In the colonies, we issue our own paper money. It is called colonial scrip. We issue it in proper proportion to make the goods and pass easily from the producers to the consumers. In this manner, creating ourselves our own paper money, we control its purchasing power and we have no interest to pay to no one. I'm going to continue before I expound. It says, according to this transcript, the English bankers took steps to get the British Parliament to pass laws forbidding the use of scrip money. And this is probably my favorite part in this entire chapter. It says, from this, we learned creating currency, not money. From this, we learned creating currency is easy, managing it an art form, and that those who wish to control every part of our lives will stop at nothing to ensure their dominance. Herein lies the real secret, and why the international banking are so intensely dedicated to ensuring we never know that currency is created by agreement and we can change our mind anytime. My God. You guys, when I stumbled, no, I can't say that. When I was led to this truth, it just opened my eyes even more. I already took the red pill, and this just showed how deep the rabbit hole actually is. But it gets deeper. It gets deeper. This is why this common law irrevocable trust is such a threat, and why information on it is little to none, because it is a threat. Like I read earlier, it says you could, when food, shelter, and clothing is taken care of and enough people come together, you can build a city, new transportation, new technology. They don't want that because they want to remain under the old powers. But they don't understand that the kingdom of heaven will come either way. The kingdom of heaven will come either way. Either way. But I'm going to expound on this last part, and then I'm going to wrap this video up. It says, we found another point of view about this issue of colonial scrip. It says, the Bank of England has played a prominent role in American history. Without it, the United States would not exist. Off rip is telling you the Bank of England, the Bank of England has played a prominent role in American history, and the U.S. would not exist without it. What did you get from that? the currency system, the financial system, originated from England. I'm pretty sure you caught on to that, though, when the first 13 colonies was literally called New England. But we're going to continue. It says, the American colonists considered themselves loyal Englishmen to a man. So thousands, possibly millions of people considered themselves loyal Englishmen to a man. Wow. But when they began to enjoy unequaled prosperity by printing and circulating their own colonial script, the stockholders of the Bank of England went to George III. That's the man that they were considering, that the colonists were considering themselves loyal to, and informed him that their monopoly of interest-bearing notes in the colonies was at stake. And then it says, because of that, he banned the script, with the result that there was an immediate depression in the commercial life of the Americas. Wow. This was the cause of the rebellion. As Benjamin Franklin pointed out, the little tax on tea, amounting to $1 a year per American family, could have been borne, but the colonists could not survive the banning of their own, not money, currency. Wow. I know that was a lot, but basically what it's saying is George III in England, basically he became jealous because of the prosperity of the colonial script in New England. So he banned it because he ruled over for some time, and that's what caused the rebellion over here in the 13 colonies of America, the first 13 states. I don't know all of them, but I know they're mostly on the East Coast. And then Benjamin Franklin is saying that the little tax on tea could have been enough, but the colonists could not survive the banning of their own money. Wow. They pledged their loyalty to a man. And what does that tell you? Looking at the history of man. Do not put your faith in man. So who do you? The one that you can't see. The one that created everything that you can and cannot see. The one within you. I am that I am. But that'll wrap up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed imparting my wisdom that I've been given while reading this important information. And if you're questioning things, I want you to ask yourself, did I get a chance to learn this, or was I told this? And by this, I mean what you know now. Did I learn and discover this for myself, or was this fed to me forcibly? Did I have a time to decide what I want to believe? Or was I fed a truth instead of the truth that I discovered? The truth will set you free. But that'll be it. You guys have a good evening, good night, good morning, and shalom.